I genuinely hate dealing with email. If I never had to do so for the rest of my life, it would be at least just a couple of percent better. I grew up in a generation where instant messaging is the way you would get in contact with people, and I'm just used to it. I like it more. Yes, I know how to use email. I just would prefer not to do it, and it would be nice if we got to a point where instant messaging was as open as what we had with email, where you could just use anything and all of the things just magically worked together because it was all underneath using the same protocol. But I digress. Email is here to stay, and you have to learn to deal with it. Now, the amount of emails that I deal with is nothing compared to someone like Nate Graham of the KDE project, and recently put out a very interesting piece called How I Manage My KDE Email. How I manage my email is I don't. Basically, I deal with things as I deal with them, but I hope that by going through this post, all of you can get at least a bit of inspiration on how you could maybe do things a little bit better. Even if you don't copy everything from his system, maybe there are things that you actually could do. Because, look, I sure as hell need a better system. Everything I do starts with the philosophy that work and project email is a task queue. Therefore, an email is a to-do list item someone else has assigned me. Better get that stuff done or rejected as soon as possible so I can move on to the stuff I want to do. This means my target is inbox 0. Achieving it means I got all my tasks done. Like everyone, I don't always achieve it, but 0 is the goal. How do I work towards it? Now, in my case, I don't treat it like a queue. I treat it like a stack. So, the newest thing that's been added is the first thing that gets popped off. This often means I don't end up dealing with a lot of things because by the time I get around to dealing with it, it's very old and very out of date and doesn't need anything done anymore. I am certainly not the only one that has like 5-year-old emails that I never bothered to look at when at the time I probably should have. But now it's 5 years later, and I don't even remember why the email was sent to me. Point number 0, separate KDE and non-KDE emails. For most other people, this would be a home email and a work email. Do not mix them together. Don't use the same account for everything because it is going to be an absolute nightmare to sort through. Also, when you're not at work, you want to better turn the work part of your brain off and not still keep looking at all of this work stuff. This is one of the few things I at least try to do. My GitHub is not on a separate email. It probably should be, but I do have a separate email for my channel and then all of the other home nonsense as well. I actually have 2 separate emails for the home nonsense because it got bad enough with me not sorting through things, so I made a whole nother one as well. Again, I don't have a system, but bare minimum, use separate emails for doing separate things. Point number 1, use an email client app. It's perfectly fine if you want to go sign up for something like Gmail or your ISP has an email provider or anything else like that, but don't go and use the web-based client. First problem, if you have multiple accounts, you're probably going to go insane. The second problem is it's usually slow, it's usually lacking useful features, and has poor keyboard navigation. Gmail is probably the best when it comes to multi-account workflows, assuming every single email account you have is on Gmail. If you have one that's on Yahoo, one that's on Hotmail because you made it 15 years ago, you have an AOL account, I don't know, you have something else, Proton, you just cannot manage it with any of the typical web-based clients. There are, of course, exceptions when the client is made as a generic email client, but for the most part, when you are dealing with webmail, it is made specifically for that provider. Currently, Nate is using Thunderbird, I do the same, but he is investigating moving to KDE's Kmail. Regardless, it has to be a desktop email client that offers mail rules. Pretty much any sensible email client is going to offer this. If you find one that is very minimal, very stripped down, it's possible they are not there, but just go and use Thunderbird. Whilst I still don't like using email, switching to Thunderbird away from these webmail clients made my life so much better. I would have my university email, I would have my Gmail accounts, maybe I'd still have a Hotmail account I was paying attention to on very rare occasions, and having to go from site to site to site just made it insufferable. Having to swap accounts I'm logged into if I have multiple accounts on a service just made it insufferable. Having it in Thunderbird, yes, there's a lot of information on the screen, but I can actually see all of it at once. Even if you only have a single email account, an email client is likely still going to be a benefit because it's probably going to be quicker than loading up whatever website you have to go to. Points 0 and 1 are things that every single person should be doing. If you are not doing these, you are doing yourself a disservice. Before watching anything else, at least, bare minimum, use an email client app. Now we get into Nate's actual workflow. Point number 2, automatic categorization. I configure my email client with mail rules to automatically tag emails with colored labels according to what they are and then mark them as read. So in this case, there are things like KDE merge request, bug report from KDE Bugzilla, bug report from Qt. All of these are automated messages that are going to have a very, very set format. So it's very easy to set up a rule that says, or in the case of Thunderbird, they're called message filters, that says if it sees this specific string of characters, it is this kind of email, or if it comes from a certain email address, it is this kind of email. Just go and do this certain operation to it. In this case, he's using the tagging system built into Thunderbird, where tags each have their own defined color, so you can very easily indicate what each of these email types are supposed to be. When I get a new kind of automated email that didn't automatically receive a color label, I adjust the rules to match that new email, so it gets categorized in the future too. Some people might prefer doing folders instead of color labels. I can understand why Nate prefers doing labels here, because he is treating it like a queue. If you have it in different folders, you're going to do each folder one by one. In Nate's case, though, he wants to address things in the order that they come in, and doing it in this way makes a lot more sense for him. Whilst Nate's filters are set up for a KDE use case, this also applies to other automatic cases as well. Let's say you're in a well-structured mailing list, you're in a bunch of forums, you're in some GitHub and GitLab repos. All of these are going to have a structure with how the emails are laid out, and there's probably going to be something in the email that you can say, okay, this means it is this kind of email. Now, setting up these rules is pretty straightforward. Here we have the email account attached to my gaming YouTube account, where the only things that come in are basically just notifications of that channel going live and notifications of new comments. So basically all just automated emails. So one thing we can do is either clicking on the from or the to element in the email, and then there'll be a thing saying create filter from. The other way we can do this is going up to the tools here, and if we click on message filters, this will bring up the message filter window. From here, we can click on new, and this brings up the actual prompt to make a new filter. So in this case, let's say we want it to be on the subject, contains, and then new comment on. So new comment on, and then we can choose what action to do on that message. In this case, I'm going to go and just delete those messages, click OK, and now we can do a run, and presumably all of those comments are now gone. In Nate's case, though, what he was doing, and probably in most of your cases what's going to make sense, is instead doing something like tag message. And you can add additional actions like, let's say you want to tag it and then move the message or mark it as read. This is what Nate is doing in his case. Now, depending on how you got Thunderbird laid out, where tag is going to be a little bit different, But if we go and right click on a message, click on tag here, from here we can go and select manage tags and make any new tags that we want to make. So in my case, I don't really have that many of them. I think some of these are the default, but once you have all of the tags that you want, then they can be used in any of the contexts where tags make sense. One of those contexts being manual categorization. So not every single email is an automated email from one of the platforms that Nate deals with. When I first open my email client in the morning, everything will be categorized except 5 to 15 emails sent by actual people. To see just these, I'll filter the inbox by unread status since all auto-categorized colored emails got automatically marked as read. Then it's time to figure out what to do with them. For anything that needs a response or action today, I mark it as urgent by hitting the 1 key. For anything that needs a personal response in the next few days, I hit 9 to tag it as personal and it becomes green, and so on. Any emails that don't need a response get immediately deleted. I never miss them. It's fast and painless. Put those emails out of their misery. I am genuinely terrible at getting back to people over email. As I said before, there are some cases where I just leave an email for multiple years and it just sits there unanswered. I probably should have answered it, but I just forgot to. Point number 4, action all the urgent emails. Again, that means me actually doing something with the email. Urgent means urgent. First, I'll go through these one at a time and action them somehow. This means one of the following. If it's from a person, write a reply and then delete the email. If it's from an automated system, open the link to the thing it's about in a web browser and then delete the email. The email always ends up deleted. For people like us, emails are not historical records, they are tasks. Do you need to remember what task you performed 8 years ago on Tuesday, May 11th? Of course not. Don't be a digital hoarder. Delete your emails. You won't miss them. I just had a look and I can't show you because there was some personal information in them. I do have emails going back to 2019. When I said 5 years, I was saying that as a joke. It's actually not a joke. Points number 5 and 6 are basically the same thing. Action all merge request emails and action all bug report emails. So go into the email, open up the link, see where it sends you, and just get everything ready to do the actual work. Once it is open, delete the email. If you don't need to do anything with the bug report or with the merge request, just delete the email. Don't even bother going any further with it. You've done the task. It's already completed. In a more general sense, if you're involved in mailing lists, you're involved in GitLab issues and GitHub issues and all of the work there, basically just check the thing that is linked in the email. If you need to do something with it, you'll do something with it in a moment. If not, get rid of it. It doesn't need to be there any longer. Finally, number 7, do actual work. At this point, Nate has spent anywhere from 15 to 40 minutes going through his email, seeing what emails he's been sent, whether he has to do anything with them or not, replying to the really urgent emails just by themselves, but hasn't dealt with any of the bug reports or merge requests yet. Now it's time to actually go through that work for the next couple of hours, going through the tabs in his browser from left to right, first reviewing merge requests, then handling the relevant bug reports, closing, reopening, replying to comments, changing metadata, marking as duplicate, CCing others. During this step, I'll also triage the day's new bug reports. Sometimes checking the email client again, doing the same process. If there is some new task in there, go and open it in a tab, get rid of the email. After all of these tabs are closed, I have some time to be proactive instead of reactive. Usually this amounts to 0 to 120 minutes a day during working hours. I try to spend this time on fixing small bugs I found throughout the day, opening and participating in discussion topics about important matters, working on the KDE Human Interface Guidelines, and sometimes helping people out on discuss.kde.org and the KDE Reddit. If there is anybody out there that tells you that bug triaging is not a difficult and time-consuming role, they are lying to you, because there's a reason why a lot of repos have 1,000 open issues. Nobody really wants to deal with them. Then, at the end of the day, go through those emails that were manually categorized that weren't that important, and if you're not too tired, reply to them today, but if it doesn't really matter, they can wait for another day. If they've sat there for too long, mark them as urgent. Now it is time to deal with them. Now, this is my problem. Deleting emails is too scary. What if I need them in the future? You won't. But if that's too scary or painful, set up your email account or client app to archive deleted messages in permanent storage rather than truly deleting them. Just keep in mind that you'll eventually run out of storage space and have to deal with that problem in the future. Just buy more drives. Just have a archival system set up entirely for your email and you never have to deal with it. Once it happens, consider it an opportunity to reconsider, asking yourself how many emails you actually did need to dig out of cold storage. I'm guessing the number will be very low, maybe even 0. I can think of maybe 1 or 2 cases where I actually needed to do so, but it just made a lot more sense to download the content of the email and store it in a separate system. What do I do about all those old emails in my inbox? There are too many, I'll never get through them. If you're one of those people who has 50,000 emails in your inbox, mine's not that bad, but combined, probably close to 30,000 across all of them, select all and delete. You won't miss any of them. Seriously, all of them, every single one, right now. Just do it. How do I know this is fine? Old notifications about things like bug reports or merge requests are worthless because they already happened. Delete. Old mailing list conversations long since dried up or got actioned without your input. Delete. Old at the time urgent emails from important people are no longer relevant because the people who sent them long ago concluded you're unreliable and decided to not contact you again, because that's what happens when you let emails pile up. You're being rude to all the people whose messages you've ignored. Feel sad, resolve to do better, then delete. Now, maybe that's cold, but look, he's probably correct. Now, to be fair, there are some people I'd prefer don't contact me again because I don't want to deal with their email, so those people I'm probably still going to ignore. But if there are people you actually want to keep in contact with at companies you're trying to work with, maybe replying is a good idea. This is another problem I have on my more personal emails. I just get too much email, it's impossible to keep up no matter what I do. You need to unsubscribe from some things, maybe a lot of things. Long-time contributors to any project will have accumulated years of subscriptions to sources of emails that are no longer relevant. Prune them. This may trigger fear of missing out. Recognize that and fight against it. You can almost always reduce your email load by unsubscribing from stuff. There's some cases where that may not actually work. In those cases, message filters. Do you have a system for dealing with email? Probably whatever it is going to be better than mine. I know I need to be better. And look, maybe I should implement some of the stuff that Nate's actually brought up here, and things will be at least a bit nicer. It's going to take a bit of effort to get things done the first time, but once everything is automatically being categorized, it's probably just going to be nicer, isn't it? I should do it. But let me know your thoughts down below. If you liked the video, go like the video, and if you really like the video and you want to become one of these amazing people over here, check out the Patreon, subscribe to LiberaPay, link in the description down below. That's going to be it for me, and don't send me an email.